Hey everyone, welcome back. For this week's video, I decided to continue my Pokemon series. And this week we're featuring... Mudkip is one of my favorite Gen 3 Pokemon. I mean, look at that face. So cute. I'm going to be using Frankenstein's head and Abby Abominable's body. Probably should have used Laguna. Oh well. Let's go ahead and get started. As always, I'm going to start by cutting off her hair. And dunking her in boiling water to soften up all that glue and to make pulling off her head easier. Now I remove the head and start removing the hair from the inside, because that's going to make it a lot easier to cut the vinyl. You guys want to see something spooky? Check this out. I decided to use her factory printed eyes as a guide for cutting out the eye holes. So with a very sharp blade, I go ahead and start thinning the vinyl around the eyes to get them ready for the inset eyes. And I'm going to go ahead and remove her ears, since we won't need them. And now I'm going to sand down her body using nail buffers to get rid of all that glitter. And I'm going to apply 2 coats of Mr. Super Clear because we're going to be blushing her body later. Using some Super Sculpty polymer clay, I go ahead and sculpt her gills, her fin for the top of her head, and her tail. To make it easier to put these parts back in the body, I inserted some sewing pins into all the parts. For her tail, I used some armature wire and bent it in the shape that I wanted, and I kind of just smushed it down into the clay and covered up the wire, and smoothed everything out with some water. Nothing too fancy here. It was my first time doing this, so this project was kind of experimental. After the clay was baked and hardened, I went ahead and inserted the gills and the fins, and using some Apoxie Scuplt, I go ahead and start meshing the two parts together, creating a seamless look, as best I could. Once the Apoxie Scuplt is cured, I go ahead and give it 2 coats of white paint and 2 coats of orange paint. Now back to the body. I went ahead and started with the torso, and I wanted to give her torso a lighter color, like Mudkip has, so I wanted to reflect that in the doll. And I want to give her a unique kind of blush pattern on her joints, like her elbows and knees, so I thought orange would be very suitable. I had to use about 4 layers of Mr. Super Clear to build up the color, because it's pretty hard to build up orange on a blue doll. Now I'm going to use the power drill and make a hole for her tail. And using some epoxy glue, I install the tail. Alright, face time. I started on her face by using some orange pastel and trying to blend in the orange paint to her blue face. And I want to try to start color correcting her face because it's a little greenish and I wanted to make it more blue. This was definitely the hardest part because her head still doesn't really match her body too well. But you know what? It's okay. We're gonna roll with it. For her face contours, I'm using a very dark navy blue pastel. I'm just placing that around her facial features to give them more dimension. And using a dark blue watercolor pencil, I start on her lips. Her whole look is going to be very monochromatic, aside from the orange on her cheeks. I start blocking in her eyebrows with a light blue watercolor pencil, and just building up the eyebrows with every layer of Mr. Super Clear. And using some watered down black acrylic paint, I go ahead and give her a simple wing liner. No glam makeup today. I wanted to keep her look very simple and cute. Now let's move on to the eyes. As usual, I'm taking some Apoxie Scuplt and wrapping it around the eyeballs and placing them in the head. I made these pretty sparkly orange eyes off camera, by the way. I decided I wanted to add more clear resin over the eyes after I inserted them to fill in the gap between the eyeball and the skin. I'm not sure if I would do it again, but I just kind of wanted to see how it would turn out. Once the Apoxie Scuplt is cured, I go ahead and take my trusty E6000 glue and glue her head back on. Here's the alpaca wefts I made a while back. I dyed them using a blue Manic Panic dye. They turned out kind of blotchy in some places near the roots, so I'm just going to cut the wefts in half and glue the hair directly to the head using Mod Podge. Since I want the focus of this doll to be her face and her body, I'm going to give her a very simple outfit. I made her a little pair of denim shorts, repurposing a pair of Monster High pants, and I made her a little top off camera too. And with that, this doll's pretty much done. I'm going to go ahead and finish her hair off camera and get her ready for her final reveal.